It's time to talk about the very best comic books released on the indie scene, Marvel Comics and DC this week. And as always, we do have a procurer and reader of fine comics himself, a comic book author in his own right. We've got Drew from Comics Elite. How you doing, Drew?
Doing, Wes. Got a fresh cut. I'm ready to talk about some fresh comics. Let's do this.
You're definitely looking very fresh and clean. Now, you guys over at Comics Elite, you do a lot of in-store variant covers. You have a website if people want to get these covers. What's this X Lives of Wolverine #4 cover all about? It looks absolutely fantastic.
It is from the legendary Adi Granov. So Sean has been sitting on this cover for almost 6 months, probably longer than 6 months. Just didn't know what to do with it. What better time than when spring is in the air? Let's let everyone start anew, and this year and with spring with an Adi Granov Wolverine, and it's beautiful.
If you're a fan of Weapon X, this is going to be must-buy stuff. Now, there are two versions. There's the regular one with the trade dress, and there's a version variant limited, which is only going to be 2,000 copies.
Yeah.
Can they buy them in a bundle? Then they need to buy them separate?
There should be a bundle. Yes, there will be a bundle option available on the website, comicselitecomics.com. Yeah, you better get these now while you can because, I mean, Wes, you've seen when you showed the one Venom #2 cover we had, that night, they were gone, that character reveal. So you better jump on these when you can, guys.
Absolutely, and these will go on sale Tuesday at noon Eastern time, correct?
That is correct.
So definitely beyond that, if you're interested, there is a link in the video description. There's a Comics Elite website, and you can get that very beautiful Weapon X cover. Now let's get into some of these best comic books. We're going to hit Indies, Marvel, and then DC. My recommendation from the indie scene is from Image Comics. We're both going Image this week, I believe. Yep. Rogue Sun #1. I think this is a part of that shared superhero universe they started with Radiant Black. This is Ryan Parrott. Most of you will know him from his Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics. We got Abel on art, a son who's a bit of a wayward spirit being pushed into a hero-type role. We've seen these things, but there's plenty of room to grow for the character stepping into the Rogue Sun mantle. That obviously has a couple of meanings here. Rogue Sun is the name of the hero that he's coming up into, but he's also the son of the original Rogue Sun. He seems like he might have a few issues there with his temper and whatnot, so he is a Rogue Sun himself. I thought this was really well done, and Ryan Parrott's just such a good writer. I knew he was going to bring it.
Ryan Parrott, yeah, he's really coming in to be a star of his own. Power Rangers has been fantastic. When I met him at C2E2, I told him that. And when this was announced, I knew I was really going to enjoy this. Because don't get me wrong, I like Kyle Higgins, but I'm not the biggest fan of Radiant Black. The series for me hasn't been the best. But this issue, holy crap, this was just textbook execution for how to create a new superhero. And he nailed it. And I cannot wait for issue 2.
Yeah, it was a really good issue #1 where you're getting the origin of the hero, but you've got the motivations established. You got some key characters around the hero that are established, and a couple key villains that you don't have a lot of information about, but you know that they're important. And those are kind of all the things that you need, and there's plenty of action. So I think this was executed to perfection and will definitely bring people back for Rogue Sun #2. Definitely recommending that one. Now, you surprised me on this one. I didn't think we were going to be recommending a Tim Seeley, Steve Orlando collaboration, but you went there, Drew.
I did, and I was not, because normally my reading order is from worst to best. So naturally, when I see these two names, it's going to be toward the bottom. I'm going to start off with this book, and this one, it blew me away just how much fun I was having reading this. Just the sheer, just over the top preposterousness nature of this book. It was hysterical. Now,
Loaded Bible, Blood of My Blood #1.
Yes, and so this apparently is the 4th part of a previous Loaded Bible series by Tim Seeley. I did not know about that going into this. I don't even think you need to read that at all going into this. And so I've made a note. I'm Roman Catholic, but I've got a sense of humor about it. And reading this, I'm laughing reading this. When you have effectively a berserker-style Jesus killing vampires and Dracula's taking over the Roman Catholic Church, I'm laughing. This is great. This is just fun. This is just over the top fun, and it's a very fun, kinetic, fast-paced story. And naturally, when you have people like Jesus, you can go one of two ways. You can treat the character with respect when you're doing a spoof of it, or you can just be sheer malice, like a Mark Russell with Last Son, which is just sheer out of spite. But you can tell there is some respect here because the character Jesus in this book is written with real respect, and it is hysterical. It's action packed. You're going to have fun reading Loaded Bible, Blood of My Blood #1.
These types of kind of spoofs or parodies, they can go over the edge too fast. So you are walking a fine line. Sounds like Tim Seeley and Steve Orlando walked the line for you and delivered a good comic book. So obviously that is a continuation of a series already created by Tim Seeley. And we know Steve Orlando from an interview recently said that, this is something that he kind of always wanted to do when he finally got into comic books. Now let's go over to Marvel. Wasn't the greatest Marvel week of all time, so for being honest, Drew. But yes. I'm certainly going to be recommending Daredevil, Woman Without Fear, #3. Chip Zdarsky, Rafael De La Torre, obviously ties into the Devil's Reign event that's going on. Looks fantastic. Tons of action. We definitely get the Elektra, Kraven the Hunter final battle that we've kind of all been waiting for. A lot of fun there. Plus, there were some interesting hints of events that are coming in the future, obviously, with the new version of Punisher. Although we did get one weird spoiler for Devil's Reign #5.
Yeah, we did. And, I think I had this as a meh or an honorable mention. There are some things about the fight that I would have changed. I would have had Elektra struggle a little bit more with the fight with Kraven the Hunter. The reveal of what happens in Devil's Reign ahead of time, it kind of knocked it down a little bit. I'm like, you guys should have known this. Come on. It's a good read. It's not the best issue, not the worst, but it's good.
Yeah, it's perfectly acceptable. This was a fine 3-issue tie-in event series. Normally, Marvel drops the ball quite spectacularly on these, and they never feel important. They don't really seem to justify their existence. I think this one's perfectly fine, and in that vein, it's actually pretty good compared to contemporaries or peers of a story like this, in my opinion. Now, you're going to something that you and I have enjoyed from the very beginning, from Moon Knight #1. We're on issue 9 now. Jed MacKay, Alessandro Cappuccio. The art looks as great as ever. This felt like maybe, it's not a misstep. I don't want to overstate what it is, but maybe a little drop in quality as we're kind of moving the story along.
I would say it's a side quest. It's a little side story. It's like Moon Knight 8.5 or whatever, because in the 2 issues prior, he lost his home base effectively. And this one, he's trying to find people missing in a building. And in this building, he may or may not have found something that's similar to him in a nature. It's a fun story. It's not the best. It's not the worst. But it's still fun, and there's some interesting artwork done with like the mazing in the building. It's a fun read. It's not, you should have fun reading this. Yeah,
Jed MacKay has set the bar really high for this Moon Knight series. I don't think he got there with Strange. That's a video for another day.
No, real quick, we were talking about that. So Kim was our special guest this week, Sean's wife. She and I were reviewing it, and we both had that as a skip it this week. And I asked her, I'm like, Kim, did you notice that she said she proclaimed herself as a Sorcerer Supreme quite a few times in this book? She's like, oh my God, I know. She said it in like half the comic. I'm like, yeah, she did.
A little overkill on that one. We'll believe you when you make us believe you, Jed MacKay. Definitely show, don't tell, because if you start telling too much, it gets a little bit annoying. Now let's go over to DC. They had a pretty decent week. I will caveat this. I did a full review on it. Batman Killing Time #1 from Tom King and David Marquez is fantastic. There's just a little couple things I could nitpick on it that I think could have been done better. Tom King typically on a lot of his miniseries, on the very first issue, they come out really, really high quality. The only exceptions really are Heroes in Crisis and Strange Adventures, in my opinion. And even Strange Adventures was a recommend. It was good, but I could see where they were going. This thing really feels like a Batman detective comic. I really enjoyed the book. Obviously, I did a full review. I don't want to go into it too much here from my words because it's already been spoken. What did you think about Killing Time?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this too. And like I said earlier, things I think are going to be the worst I start off with. And I started off with Batman Killing Time first of the week, and it set a high bar. I'm like, holy crap, I actually enjoyed reading this. And I didn't want to message you. I was going to message you and be like, dude, this is awesome, but I didn't want to spoil it for you and set a high bar and you didn't like it. But there was a couple pages here and there where it was just kind of like why was this in here? But I kind of see what he was trying to do, like a parallel to similar things with Catwoman. But yeah, it's a very fun, fast-paced, action-packed, well-drawn, kinetic comic. Cannot go wrong with it. But we'll see what happens in issues 2 or 3. We shall see.
Issue 3 is about the time where he normally does something to really throw you off. But Tom King himself has said, I'm going to lay off the trauma stuff and I'm going to tell some real good comic book stories. Mm-hmm. Now, he's got to show and not tell on that one. I'll believe it when I see it. But this first issue is absolutely a great start. Now, you're going over to what are these little mini events? I like what DC's doing, the concept of the self-contained kind of little crossover where you include 2 or 3 titles, you build up to something, and you start crossing over and tell a story. This week we got War for Earth-3 #1, Dennis Hopeless Howell, and Robbie Thompson and Steve Pugh. We also got the second chapter of that, which we'll get here in a second. What was it about War for Earth-3 #1 that really stood out for you as being great?
I love the Crime Syndicate. I love Earth-3. Ever since I was a kid, reading the Silver Age stories. And Sean loves the Crime Syndicate too. And when it was announced we were having a miniseries, we loved it. We loved it all the way through. It was written truthfully to each of the characters. And when this event was happening, I was looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint. So I will say this: if you had been reading Crime Syndicate, and if you had been reading Suicide Squad or Flash, this should be you should thoroughly enjoy this, because reading this issue, it was just so action packed, so kinetic, and there's a great payoff moment in here it's alluded to. It's a little homage to a prior Batman event that happened to Batman. It's just fun. You're going to have fun reading this.
Yeah, the Crime Syndicate is always really interesting. Obviously, you have this evil versions of our heroes sitting on Earth-3 where they're kind of ruling the world. We've gone back into like some of the Silver Age kind of stuff with DC Comics where they're introducing these concepts, and they're always kind of fun to play with. I like that they're introducing them or expanding on it here within this miniseries. We did get the second chapter, but this one isn't in a self-contained series. This is Suicide Squad 13, Dennis Hopeless Howell, and Robbie Thompson once again. This time with Dexter Stoy on art. I'm a big Dexter Stoy fan. He's a real slick artist, and obviously continuing the story there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the art steps up from issue 1. The art was good, but issue 2, the art is fantastic. And the action just keeps going. You know, normally you think by issues 2 or 3, there's going to be like several pages of them just BSing, talking. No, it's still the Suicide Squad versus the Crime Syndicate, still fighting their butts off. It is great. And you got the alliances changing up, which makes it all the more fun too. I can't recommend this enough. It's just, if you've been reading these titles, you will thoroughly enjoy this. There's a great payoff with reading this. You should enjoy it.
What's cool is we know we're going to have something similar happening with Batman, with Robin, and with the Deathstroke Inc. title with the Shadow War little mini contained event. I hope they do more stuff like this. Not everything has to be the biggest event ever and include every title in the DC Comics and have to have, galaxy ending ramifications about them. You can do some smaller contained titles or crossover stories where the characters jump between the title and you tell a cool story where they cross over, then they go on their separate ways, and those are fun adventures.
Yeah, they are. When you limit the characters, I think that's where you can have the most fun too. You don't need every character in the universe to tell a great story. You can have a small amount of characters and have them fighting each other, conflicting ideas and theories. It should make for fun. And when you got Deathstroke and Batman, there's going to be fighting. There should be fighting. If there isn't, we will be pissed. We'll call it out.
So we'll definitely be looking forward to that one. So you had a pretty darn good week in comic books. We had Rogues. I said Rogue One like in Star Wars. Rogue Sun from Image Comics, the second real hero introduced in this shared superhero universe with Radiant Black. Loaded Bible, Blood of My Blood #1. From Marvel, we've got Daredevil, Woman Without Fear, and Moon Knight #9. DC Comics, if you like Tom King, you're going to love Batman Killing Time. If you're not a fan, but you like Batman, you'll probably like the comic book, but you should be wary. He does have a track record, but this comic book was absolutely fantastic. And Drew was saying the War for Earth-3 crossover story is absolutely fantastic. You got the series #1, as well as Suicide Squad 13. Really appreciate that. And definitely, if you're interested in that X Lives, a Wolverine #4 special comic book cover, check out the link in the video description. It goes on sale Tuesday at noon Eastern time. I don't want you to miss out because these things are going to probably sell out in a matter of maybe an hour or two.
Probably, yeah. Naturally, that's what's happened in the past. Sometimes minutes. We'll see what happens.
As I mentioned, I did review in full Batman Killing Time. If you don't believe me, I do have the evidence. This is the full review of the comic book. The art is fantastic. The story is really engaging. Like I said, a nitpick here or there, but for the most part, this is a really, really high-quality comic book that I couldn't recommend more. If you need more evidence, check out the video because you might have missed out on a really good Batman comic.